You have probably had this exact moment. You are scrolling through Florida listings late at night, and you find it. A clean, bright home in a nice community, and the price is almost too good to be real. It sits well under the typical Florida home, which Zillow now puts around $392,000. You do the quick mortgage math in your head, and for the first time in a long while, Florida looks possible. The town looks perfect. And then you add it all up. Not the price. The price was never the problem. You add the homeowners insurance, which in Florida is its own special kind of shock. You add the property taxes, which quietly reset the day you buy. You add the association dues, and then you find the one line almost nobody warns you about, a separate fee attached to the community itself that follows the house for decades. And by the time you have stacked all of it together, that perfect, affordable home costs as much every month as a house $200,000 more expensive. The sticker price was a door. The cost to own it was a trapdoor. That is what today is about. I found 10 Florida towns that pass the eye test perfectly, homes priced at or below what a typical Florida home costs, in places people genuinely want to live, where the real cost of owning quietly runs past $10,000 a year before you have paid a single cent of your mortgage. I'm going to count them down from 10 to 1, show you exactly where the money hides in each one, and finish with the honest part, the towns where this trap does not exist at all. Because the goal here is not to scare you away from Florida, it is to make sure that when a town looks perfect, you already know what it truly costs before you add it all up. Let me show you the filter first because I want this to survive the most skeptical person in the comments. A town made this list only if it passed 2 tests at the same time. Test 1, the looks affordable test. The typical home has to sit at or below the Florida median, right around that $392,000 figure from Zillow, so every town here genuinely looks like a bargain. Test 2, the expensive to own test. The combined yearly carrying cost for a new buyer, the insurance plus the property taxes plus any association and community fees has to clear $10,000 a year. That second number is the villain of this whole video, and it has a name, carrying cost. It is everything you pay to keep the house after you own it. And in the wrong Florida town, it is larger than the mortgage itself. It hides in 4 layers, and you need to know all 4. The first is insurance. And I have to be honest about the range here, because the sources disagree wildly. Bankrate puts the Florida average around $5,400 a year. The Insurify report puts it north of $8,000. The number that actually applies to you depends entirely on your zip code and your roof, so whenever I give one, I will tell you exactly where it came from. The second layer is property tax, which resets to full market value the day you buy, so the seller's low bill on the listing is a fantasy for you. The third is the homeowner association fee. And the fourth is the one that catches almost everyone, a community development district. That is a special taxing district allowed under Florida law that a developer sets up to borrow money for the roads and pipes and amenities, then repays by charging every homeowner an annual assessment right on the property tax bill, sometimes for 30 years straight. Florida has more of these districts than any state in the country, over 700 of them, and most buyers have never even heard the term until they are already paying it. One promise before we count. This is not a video about Florida being a bad place to live, and it is not a knock on these towns. Most of them are lovely, and a few are among the most sought-after communities in the entire state. This is a video about one specific thing, the gap between the price and the true cost, and how to see it before it sees you. Now, from 10 down to 1, number 10 is Punta Gorda, and specifically its inland pockets like Deep Creek, set back from the glamorous waterfront. On the sticker, this is a clear win. You can find a solid home here below the state median with ease. But Punta Gorda sits in Charlotte County, which took a direct, catastrophic hurricane hit a few years ago, and the insurance market has never forgotten it. Even on a non-waterfront home, premiums here run thousands of dollars above the state's cheaper inland counties, and if any part of the property touches a flood zone, a separate flood policy stacks right on top. The home is affordable. The 2 insurance bills attached to it are not. That is the mildest version of the trap, which is exactly why it is number 10. Number 9 is Deltona in Volusia County, one of the most affordable sticker prices in all of Central Florida. This is a town built for the budget buyer, and on price, it truly delivers. The catch here is quieter, and it is growing. Insurance costs across Volusia have been climbing steadily, and Deltona is dotted with low-lying flood pockets where a lender will demand flood coverage the buyer never once budgeted for. Add the reset property taxes on top of a rising premium, and a home that looked like the easiest yes in Florida turns into a monthly number that keeps creeping up on you after you have already moved in. The buyer who's stretched to afford the mortgage has no room left when the escrow recalculates, and that is precisely the person a low sticker price pulls in. Deltona is the slow leak version of the trap. Number 8 is Palm Bay and its neighbor Melbourne, out on the Space Coast in Brevard County. You can still buy under $350,000 here, which on Florida's Atlantic coast feels almost impossible these days, and that is the whole draw. But this is the Atlantic coast, which means wind. Broker aggregations put coastal Brevard insurance around $4,300 a year, and even the state-backed insurer averages well over $2,000 for the county. Stack that onto reset taxes, and you have already spent the affordability that pulled you in. Palm Bay is proof that this trap is not just a Gulf Coast story. It runs on both coasts, anywhere the wind can reach. Number 7 is Ave Maria, a planned town out in Collier County, and this is where the community fees enter the story in force. Homes here start in a genuinely reasonable range for the area, in the $300,000 to $400,000 band. But Ave Maria is built on a community development district, so a district assessment of roughly $1,500 to $3,500 a year rides on the tax bill. Layer on Collier County's property taxes, where the typical bill already runs near $4,800, then add insurance, and a town that markets itself as affordable family living quietly clears the $10,000 carrying line. The homes are new and the streets are pretty. The district bond humming underneath them is doing quiet work on your budget every month. And if you are the kind of person who would rather know about that district bond before you sign than after, tap the like button for me. It genuinely pushes this in front of the next buyer who needs to hear it, and that is the whole point. Number 6 is Babcock Ranch up in the Punta Gorda area, and this one deserves real respect before the warning because Babcock is genuinely impressive. It is a solar-powered planned town that famously rode out a direct, catastrophic hurricane a few years ago almost completely untouched, even sheltering people from towns nearby. So here is the twist. Babcock is not an insurance trap at all. It was built to survive storms, and it does. The cost here comes from an entirely different direction, and it is the best documented FEE stack in all of Florida. The association dues alone run from about $650 to over $900 a month depending on your home, which is $8,000 to $11,000 a year by itself. On top of that, the community's own district assessment adds roughly $2,000 to $3,500 a year right on the tax bill. Add ordinary property tax and you're comfortably past $12,000 a year on a home around $400,000. Babcock proves the trap does not need a hurricane. Sometimes the community itself is the entire cost. Number 5 is Port Charlotte, and now we are at the true ground zero of the insurance trap. Port Charlotte is a vast grid of older, modestly priced homes, many of them built decades ago, sitting in the very county that absorbed the worst of that catastrophic hurricane. Older roofs and direct storm history are the two things insurers punish hardest, and Port Charlotte has both in bulk. Premiums here routinely run many thousands of dollars, and because so much of the area sits in a flood zone, a second flood policy is often mandatory on top of the first. The homes are some of the cheapest on this entire list. The cost to insure them is some of the highest. That combination, cheap house, brutal coverage, is the purest form of what we are talking about today, and it feeds on itself. When a roof passes the age insurers will write, the premium is punishing. When it does not, some carriers will not write the home at all, which forces the buyer toward the state-backed insurer or a costly specialty policy and pushes the price down even further to make up for it. Cheap gets cheaper, and the reason it is cheap is the very thing that makes it expensive to keep. And here is the question I want you holding as we reach the top 4 because it decides everything. When the cost to own a home is bigger than the cost to buy it, is it still a bargain? Keep watching because the last few towns answer that with numbers you will not forget. Number 4 is Northport in Sarasota County, and Northport stacks 2 of our 4 layers into one nasty combination. The typical home here is genuinely affordable, around $300,000, and falling down almost 6% on the year by Zillow's measure, which makes it look like a deal that is only getting better. But Northport is riddled with flood zones. In the moderate flood areas, a required flood policy runs $1,500 to $4,500 a year all on its own. In the most severe coastal zone, it can top $6,000, and that is before your regular homeowner's insurance even begins. Redfin's data shows homes here sitting on the market longer than they used to, and a big reason is that buyers pull up the flood map and quietly walk. A person who sees a cheap falling price and never checks that map can end up with 2 insurance bills that together cost more than the mortgage. Northport is where the falling sticker actively lures you toward the trap. Number 3 is Lehigh Acres in Lee County, and Lehigh is a fascinating case because on one layer it actually looks fine. The property taxes here are low, with a median bill of only around $2,000, one of the gentler numbers in this entire video. So where is the trap? Insurance. Lehigh sits in Lee County, one of the most expensive insurance markets in the whole state, and premiums of $8,000 and up are common on ordinary homes here. So you have a home around $300,000, a friendly tax bill, and then a single insurance premium that all by itself shoves the true cost of owning past $10,000 a year. Lehigh is a one-punch knockout. It does not need 4 layers. The insurance alone does the job. And sorting exactly this, the towns where the true cost quietly breaks the budget from the ones where it does not, is the entire reason the Florida Buy and Avoid list for 2026 exists. It lays out 40 Florida towns, 20 to buy and 20 to avoid in one place, with the carrying cost math already done on every single one. The link is sitting in the description right below this video. If you want the full map instead of just 10 stops along it, that is where it lives. Number 2 is Cape Coral, and Cape Coral earns its spot because here the insurance does not merely strain the budget, it detonates it. Zillow puts the typical Cape Coral home around $337,000, down about 6%, so on price it looks like one of the best values in all of Southwest Florida. Then the insurance quote arrives. One widely cited report puts the average Cape Coral premium for a modest home around $8,500 a year. And Cape Coral has a hidden layer almost nowhere else has. Across huge sections of the city, a utilities extension project is converting old well and septic lots over to city water and sewer, and the cost, which can run into the tens of thousands of dollars per home, gets financed right onto your property tax bill over 20 years. So a Cape Coral buyer can face a punishing insurance premium and a utilities assessment at the very same time, on top of the taxes. $12,000 to $15,000 a year, all in, on a home that carried a starter home price. That is the trapdoor at full size. And that brings us to number one, the single widest gap in the entire state between what a home looks like it costs and what it actually costs to own. Port St. Lucie, and above all, its master-planned communities like Tradition and the Verano Golf neighborhood. On the sticker, this is paradise for a budget. Zillow puts the typical Port St. Lucie home right around $390,000 at or just under the state median in a clean, modern, amenity-rich community that photographs like a resort. Now let us add it all up and watch exactly what happens. First, the taxes. Port St. Lucie sits in St. Lucie County, which carries the highest property tax rate of any county in Florida. A homesteaded home around $350,000 owes roughly $7,000 a year in property tax alone, and that is before anything else joins it. Second, the association dues, which in a community like Verano run between about $5,500 and $7,000 a year. Third, the community development district assessment on top of that, another $1,500 to $3,000 riding right on the tax bill. And fourth, insurance, which even inland on the Treasure Coast is thousands more. At the highest county tax rate in Florida, resort-level association dues, a district bond, and a real insurance premium together, and a new buyer in the Verano community can face $18,000 to $20,000 a year in carrying cost on a home that listed for under $400,000. Read that one more time. The price says starter home. The cost to own says mansion. Nothing in that listing photo tells you that the community you're about to fall in love with will cost you close to $2,000 a month before you have paid a single dollar toward actually owning the house. Port St. Lucie is not number one because it is a bad place. It is number one because it is the most perfect looking trapdoor in the entire state of Florida. Now the honest part I promised, because without it, this whole video is just fear. Every town you just heard is a real and often genuinely wonderful place, and none of this means you should not buy there. It means you should AD'd it up first. And this matters. This trap is not Florida itself, it is specific. The insurance layer is a coastal and storm zone problem, and it nearly vanishes the moment you go inland. The district and association layers only exist if you buy inside a master-planned community, and most of Florida is not one. There are entire towns across inland North and Central Florida where a similar priced home carries insurance under $2,000, no district bond, and no resort dues, and the true cost of owning is a fraction of what you just heard. The towns quietly hitting brand new record highs in Florida this year are largely those very places. So the lesson is not to run from Florida. The lesson is that in this state, two identical price tags can hide two completely different lives, and the only way to tell them apart is to ADD it all up before you sign. So here is exactly what to do. Before you fall for any Florida listing, run the 4 layers yourself. Get a real insurance quote for that specific address. Pull the reset property tax based on the price you would actually pay, not the seller's frozen bill. Ask directly whether there is an association fee and whether there is a community development district and get both numbers in writing. Then add all 4 onto the mortgage. That 1 hour of math is the whole difference between a home you can afford and a trapdoor you signed yourself into. Nobody at the closing table is paid to do it for you, which is exactly why it stays hidden until it is your problem. So here is my question for you, and I do read the comments. If you live in one of these 10 towns, or you are shopping one right now, tell me your real all-in number. the insurance, the taxes, the fees, the whole stack, and which town it is. I want to see how wide the gap really is where you are standing. And if this was useful, the video you want next is the one on exactly where in Florida insurance still comes in cheap, because that single layer is the biggest swing factor in everything you just saw, and it draws the line between the trapdoor towns and the ones that are genuinely affordable to own. Go watch that one next. And subscribe to FloridaPulse, because I take these numbers apart every single month, community by community, so you see the real cost long before you ever sign for it. We will see you in the next one.